Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, we're going to talk about a global campaign that's geared to help out each and everyone in the community around the world. We're also going to talk about the most important day in human history. Without any further delay, let's welcome on our very special guest that's going to talk about these subjects and more. And I'm so delighted to welcome back U.S. spokesperson with Jehovah's Witnesses, Purvis. Aaron, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing very well today. Thank you for having me, Paul.
And Aaron, I'm so glad I didn't scare you off from last time. So thank you for coming back. I really appreciate that. Aaron, before we talk about the special campaign that the witnesses are involved in right now, I wanted to give a shout out to the organization. I was at a conference in Anaheim recently. It was a conference for ones with disabilities. It was called CSUN. And as a person with a disability myself, I always cover that because I try to find things that can help me maybe live a more independent life or different technologies out there. Well, we were walking down the different exhibits, and I look over in the corner and I see a banner that said jw.org. So I immediately went over there. I introduced myself, and I really asked them. I said, "What are you doing here at this Assistive and Adaptive Technology Conference?" And they were like, "We want to make sure that the deaf and the blind have an opportunity to learn about God." And Aaron, that was so refreshing to see that the organization wants to make sure that no one is left behind when it comes to hearing and learning about the Bible and finding out what can help them out from the Bible. So I just want to give that shout out, Aaron.
Well, that's very kind. I'll make sure I pass that on, too. I know Jehovah's Witnesses work very hard to try to reach as many people as they can. And when it comes to the Braille, it is amazing. They have the Braille readers now. And we're trying to adapt even when it came to our convention recordings, making sure that we had the audio descriptions for ones that aren't able to see the program but can only hear it. And ASL, that would also fit into that category. I think Jehovah's Witnesses were the very first ones to have the complete ASL Bible completed from Genesis to Revelation in American Sign Language. So that's exciting. I'll pass on those thoughts. Thank you.
Hey, I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that. And Aaron, we know right now there's a special campaign going on worldwide. And let's talk about that campaign and how's it going?
It's exciting for us. We actually started in this global campaign on March the 11th, and we initiated all 8.6 million Jehovah's Witnesses in over 239 lands to begin this global invitation work to two very important programs. One is going to be a special talk that's going to happen in every place of worship of Jehovah's Witnesses, either on April 1st or April 2nd. And that's a very exciting discussion. Hopefully we can talk about that in a few moments. And also the most important event of the year, which is the observance of Christ's death, the memorial. And that happens on April the 4th. And so we're giving these invitations out to everyone that we come into contact with. And we're actually giving the invitations out in 489 different languages, because we want to make sure that every person, no matter the language they speak, will be able to benefit from these programs in their mother tongue.
That is awesome. That is so awesome. And you know, you mentioned before about the different things out there that has been done to make sure everyone has an opportunity to hear about this important information, as well as being able to make sure that they can understand it as well. So that is so awesome. We know, Aaron, that the future is on everyone's mind. It's not a day that goes by that we either watch something on television, news report, or maybe on social media, or reading different news articles out there. And it's really depressing. And a lot of people don't have hope, uncertain about the future. And we noticed that the special presentation has been entitled Facing the Future with Confidence. Is that like an oxymoron? Aaron, how can we face the future with confidence when the future looks bleak?
I think it's going to catch so many people's attention.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. When I turn on the news, I'm thinking to myself, how can things get worse? And my heart breaks for people when we see the problems and the difficulties that aren't just happening here in this country, but around the globe. Even with something like feeding people. You think that would be at the top of mankind's priority, but it doesn't get done, and the problems just continue to exist. I think to myself, too, I got to stay on to the end of the news because they have that little segment at the end where they at least give you something positive. Recently, in fact, on jw.org, they had on the cover page, now remember jw.org, the most translated website in the world, had just a brief clips of the doomsday clock. Now, we're not doomsdayers by any means, but these individuals that are scientists, they take a look at the world scene and they use as a metaphor a clock, and they feel that if that clock ever strikes midnight, that'll be the end of humanity. They've moved that clock closer to midnight than ever before. It just sits at 90 seconds away from midnight. And so to your point, what it shows is that when it comes to confidence in the world, people have very little. They look at the world scene and they go, where are we going? And how is my family going to be able to survive? Well, that's where this theme is going to be so important, because the Bible has such a positive message for the future. And that's what we want to be able to share with all that we can in the community. And not just lift your chin up and smile, but we need something tangible, something realistic. It's not based on blind credulity. What are the facts? What does the Bible actually teach on these topics to help us know that we're going to be able to feed our children, that we can have meaningful work, that we can have a place to live, that we can have security, and a place where love will be able to permeate the human family.
And one thing that always seems to make me chuckle a little bit when I speak to Jehovah's Witnesses about the ministry is sometimes they say they go to the door and ones will say, well, I'm not one of Jehovah's Witnesses. And witnesses' response are, well, I'm here to speak to everyone in my community. So sometimes people think that this is only for just Jehovah's Witnesses, but this is for all members of the community. Is that correct, Aaron?
It's so true. You know, we're all humans, and we're in this together. The problems that we face, they don't just affect Jehovah's Witnesses. They affect all people. And so we're all looking for tangible solutions to our problems. And Jehovah's Witnesses feel that those solutions are found in the Scriptures. That's the reason why we have such programs. It's the reason why we produce the material that we produce, showing that this is not the end. There's something that's coming that's going to be a bright, happy future, and God wants every person on the earth to be able to benefit from that.
And you know what, Aaron? A lot of ones who are out there, this may sound great to them. This is something that really piques their interest. But they have been sold hope so many times by politicians, by ones in positions of authority, and they just feel that this may be too good to be true. But how can this really be tangible to help the community? What are some tangible things that this is going to really help them out with?
That's a great question, Paul. And there are many that feel that exact same way. In fact, when we start studying the Bible with individuals, that's often their first response. This is too good to be true. And the reason is because they have been lost in all of the empty promises that are made. And certainly, you mentioned in the political realm, when ones come to office, they promise grandiose things, but it seems like the problems don't get better. They only seem to get worse. And people feel that in their own lives, that it touches them in just very private ways. And so to have something positive, people, they wonder, is it really true? That's where the Bible comes in. The Bible is very interesting in that it's also a book of prophecy. And so when a person understands that it's a book of prophecy, they can see prophecies that were uttered years ago that have already come true. And then that builds our confidence for prophecies that are still in the Bible that have yet to come true. If it's happened in the past, it will happen in the future. The pattern is set. And so when a person sits down to study the Bible, they can see that. But perhaps more impactful is just simply this. When a person begins to apply these principles in their life, they can see improvement in their life right away. whether that be in their family, in their relationships at work, their relationships at school, how they get along with their neighbors or their community. And when a person sees that something has a positive effect on their life, it spurs them on to want to learn more and apply more. And so we would tell an individual, give it a chance, give it a try. Try it for 30 days. If you see benefit, continue. If not, you can always go back to whatever you were doing before.
Yeah, get your money back guarantee, right?
That's right.
And Aaron, these are some things that you have experienced yourself personally, because that's how you're able to really speak truth to power when it comes to something like this.
Yeah, it really is the case. For a decade of my life, over a decade, I would travel and spend time with different congregations of Jehovah's Witnesses. But a main feature of that was actually going out in the ministry. So I've gotten to go in the ministry in a variety of different states, a variety of different communities, and every race of people that you can imagine. And it's interesting that it doesn't matter if you're in New Jersey or in New York or in Connecticut or in D.C. or in Florida or in Alabama. People have the same issues, the same problems, the same difficulties, but the Bible always has the solution. And so these principles that were written so many thousands of years ago are just as applicable as the day they were written. They're applicable in our everyday life. And when those principles are followed, people can see that their life will have improvement. And again, that's the reason why we offer free home Bible studies to all that we come into contact with.
And when it comes to the special campaign, especially for the special presentation, Facing the Future with Confidence, how will ones be reached so that they can be a part of this?
Well, a lot of your listening audience will know Jehovah's Witnesses. And if they know a Jehovah's Witnesses, chances are they've already gotten an invitation. Because we like to start, first of all, with inviting people that we know. Whether, again, we go to school with them, live by them, work with them, or family members that aren't Jehovah's Witnesses. But in addition to inviting ones that we know, we also invite ones that we don't know. So already for almost a year, because of the pandemic, we had a pause in our public ministry starting in March of 2020. About a year ago, we got started in our public ministry again. So maybe some in your listening audience have seen our literature cards in areas of high traffic where people walk by. That will be mentioning the upcoming special talk and the memorial. We're also, since September of 2022, we've been back knocking on people's doors, which again, we had to put on pause because of the pandemic. And so we're inviting people with a personal invitation. JW.org is highlighting it on its cover page. And then, of course, Paul, we have programs like this where you're kind enough to give us a voice, where we're inviting people even right now as we speak.
And when you look at the way mankind is struggling today, are there any resources that are out there that can help the community who are struggling that Jehovah's Witnesses provide?
Right now, our watchtower that we're leaving with people, again, in every language that you can imagine, is entitled Mental Health Help from the Bible. And it is such a wonderfully written magazine that talks with experts in the field of mental health. And yes, people need to have professional help. And yes, sometimes ones need to take medication to help them with the difficulties that they're faced with. But in addition to those things, there's also an element to the Bible. Here, the creator of the human family has given us a book specifically for the human family. And there's principles there that can help a person. Now, they're not going to always replace a professional, and they're not going to replace medication that's needed, but it's to supplement these types of things so that we can have the strength to be able to endure, the strength to be able to continue to be a good father, a good mother, good children, and to be able to live a life that could bring honor and praise to our Creator. And so a resource like that, I think, is outstanding. In addition, on jw.org, we have a section called Bible Changes Lives. If a person logs on to jw.org and they search that, Bible Changes Lives, they'll be introduced to a whole host of people from around the globe that have tangible problems, difficulties that perhaps that we can relate to in our own lives, and we'll be able to hear how the Bible changed their life, how the principles help them. And I think that's always beneficial. I think just living in this world, sometimes we think that we're all alone with our problems. Again, when we're watching the news, we're just thinking this is something that's maybe affecting others. These are just things that are affecting me. We're in it together. And so when you see that these are problems or difficulties that others have had, it makes us feel that we're not alone. And just as God was able to help them, he can help me as well.
I want to circle back, if we could, Aaron, about mental health. Because for many years, this subject has been kind of taboo in different communities and different family dynamics, where, if ones are struggling, it was like, oh, you'll be okay. Just go ahead and do this. Go outside to get some fresh air and just leave it at that. But it's amazing over the years of how many people struggle with mental health. Even myself, when I was younger, I struggled with mental health, and it's something that it never really goes away. It just kind of subsides, and if you dealt with it before, it'll pop back up from time to time. And why was it so important for the organization to address this? Because I feel that this was masterful in the way that they did this, because the crisis is hitting all the generations, young, old, you name it. Ones are struggling with it. And why help out with this?
That's such an honest question, Paul, and what a great observation. Jehovah's Witnesses have addressed this in the past, but I'm like you. I've never seen it addressed in such a loving and a kind and a positive and a reinforceful way. And I think it's just simply because these problems continue to persist. And the stress of it all, the anxiety, the depression, this pressure that we all feel because of the problems that surround us, it has an effect on our mental capabilities. And that's just simply understandable. Even when Jesus was on the earth, there were examples in the Bible where one struggled mentally. The Apostle Paul, he said something very interesting when he was on the earth. He used this expression, miserable man that I am. And so he dealt with obviously a tremendous amount of regret in his life. Before he came to know Jesus, he actually persecuted the Christians. And when he was up giving talks in front of congregations, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that he was talking to individuals that he had persecuted before, or perhaps family members that he had harmed before. So he had this regret, and those things could have rushed in on him from time to time. However, he was able to bring those thoughts into captivity. He was able to fill his mind with more positive things to be able to help him, but he had to discuss it. He had to talk about it. And obviously, God is the one who's the author of the Bible, but he allowed the Apostle Paul to write down those personal expressions to benefit you and me today. And so I think as these things continue to unwind and these difficulties to continue to persist, we're going to continue to address that issue in a way that will hopefully benefit as many people as possible.
That's a very interesting observation, bringing up about the Apostle Paul, and how his mind might have really played tricks on him many times after he became a believer of his past life, and how that could kind of crush someone and to not think positively.
And I could also just say with that, Paul, not that a person, because they're having these types of feelings, it's because of something they've done in the past. Some individuals just have these types of feelings because of a chemical makeup that's in their mind, or because of something that was done to them. And so a person that's struggling with any kind of mental illness, they're never the ones to blame for these type of things. It's not something that they've brought on themselves by any means. But again, the Bible's message is such that it can help no matter what the circumstance is. So that's the reason why I wanted to share that with the Apostle Paul.
Yeah, I'm glad you shared that, because that makes a whole lot of sense. Because sometimes when we talk about mental health, that's one thing we don't talk about enough. About a person sometimes has a chemical imbalance or something that was done to them that caused these kind of problems, and it's nothing that they did to have this type of feeling. But I'm so glad you shared that, Aaron. And if we could talk about a little bit more about seeing how this type of resource have helped ones, because you talked about for 10 years how you traveled to different congregations and how you would be out in ministry and meet different ones. And over the years, have you seen personally how this type of advice has helped ones out there?
It never ceases to amaze me. That's the reason why it says that when it comes to the scriptures, they're beneficial for all things, and they do have power. They can help make needed adjustments and changes in any person. And that's the reason why the Bible is such a wonderful gift from God. You can see the reason why he preserved it over all of these years in accuracy, and we can have confidence in it being from him and being able to see how these things affect us. What a wonderful gift to the human family. And it doesn't matter really even the educational level. I've studied the Bible with individuals before. One that was over an entire school district had a double doctorate, and the husband had a doctorate. Just highly intelligent people, and so appreciative to be able to look into the Bible for things that they simply didn't know about. And then, of course, at the other end of the spectrum would be individuals that can't even read. And so we have tools that are available for them as well. Again, it just shows the love that God has for all people to make sure that no one's left out. And I would encourage a person, again, to look at jw.org, Bible Changes Lives. I think that'll be beneficial and powerful for anyone that takes the time to examine that.
And I remember, too, Aaron, on the website, it might have been a few months ago or maybe even last year, there was a resource there to even help young ones who were struggling with mental issues and mental illnesses out there. And that's one thing that children today have to deal with, that you and I, we were growing up, we didn't have to deal with the fear of mass shootings, the fear of just all the things that are going on right now. And when you look at, again, the title of this discourse, Facing the Future with Confidence, what about the young ones out there? Is it something that can help them to face their future with confidence as well?
There is. And again, this Bible discussion that we'll have on April the 1st and April the 2nd will address those issues, and it will be beneficial for all people. We're going to look at how and what God is doing right now to build our confidence in the future. What are the tools that he's providing for us in our everyday life that will help us right now? And those things will also benefit young people. We'll mention 4 of them specific. A person will be able to take a couple of notes if they attend, and I think those things will be very powerful for them. I'll give you just one of them, and that is why we can have confidence in the promises that God has made in the Bible, and really what those promises are. I think ones will find that encouraging. I think with young people, just like what you had mentioned earlier, Paul, when they take a look down the road at the future, whether that be on social media or any other kind of news feed, they wonder what kind of world are they going to have to grow up in. When it comes to what's happening even in the environment, people are wondering, am I going to have even a place to live? And that's the reason why we need these positive thoughts, these positive promises. But we have to have our confidence built up in those promises enough to have them become part of who we are.
So true, so true. And I'm so glad that we spend a little time addressing the young ones out there to see that they're invited. They're invited too. You know, they can come, and it's some good information for them too as well.
Even small children, Jesus said, let them come. Remember, the disciples tried to keep these children away from Jesus because he was so busy and so many other things. That wasn't his attitude. Let them come. And Jesus would take his message, and he made it in such a way, or would distribute it in such a way that anyone could understand. What a good example for us.
You know, I often wonder when I read that account personally, Aaron, when Jesus told him that, I visualized in my head that Jesus probably gave them an eye roll and saying, "Would you let the children come, please? I want to talk to them." You know, but it's interesting how when we read the Bible, how we can let our imagination just run wild with the settings and just how things are. And I'm so glad you shared that.
I liked also how Jesus called one of the little ones to his side and told his disciples, "Be more like this one." Yeah,
absolutely. And you can imagine how the disciples felt like, "Whoa, I just got put on blast by Jesus." Yeah. So, but that's a very good. We're so glad you shared that, Aaron. And Aaron, is there anything else about the special presentation, Facing the Future with Confidence, you would like to share before we move on to the next portion?
a person can log on to jw.org. We're featuring that today on the cover page on this talk. And even if you log on later and it's not there and it's the memorial, you can still click on the same button, find a meeting. And no matter where you're at in the world, if you put in the address and what language you want to hear that program in, it'll show you on the map exactly where that meeting place will be, what time it is, and all can come in and enjoy. There's no collection at the door. There's no collection plates that will be passed. You don't have to have a ticket to come in. Just if you'd like to bring your Bible, come. We'd love to have you. And if you don't have a Bible, we'll give you one at our meeting place.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate that. Now let's move on to the other part of the campaign, and that is the memorial. Aaron, why is this the most important day in human history?
Yeah. Well, human history. Man has lived on the earth for over 2.2 million days. But there was not a day that was more important than Nisan 14 of 33 CE, because that was the day that Jesus gave his life for all of us. We weren't even thought of then, but he gave his life for us so that we could have an opportunity to talk with God in prayer and to have a prospect of getting away from the problems and the difficulties that we're faced with now and be able to live in what the promise of the Bible is. Remember, God's original purpose for the earth was there to be Adam and Eve, one set of parents, where they would create a family around the world, everyone getting along, everyone living in peace and harmony with the animal kingdom, with each other, in perfection, with no death. The ransom sacrifice makes it possible for us to be able to take advantage of that wonderful promise that's held there in the Scriptures. You can see the reason why. When Jesus was on the earth and he instituted this very important meeting, he said in Luke chapter 22 and verse 19, "Keep doing this in remembrance of me." And so Jehovah's Witnesses, along with many others, have strived to commemorate this most important event once a year. This year, Nisan 14 falls on April the 4th, which is a Tuesday. That's the reason why we're holding it on that same day after sunset, just as Jesus did when he originally performed this or instituted this brand new arrangement after the Passover celebration.
And Aaron, now when it comes to this the celebration or this memorial observance, what are some of the things that ones who are in attendance will learn from this? Because many people who are religiously inclined, they know that Jesus died for our sins. But that program goes into more depth of what that really means. And if you can whet our appetite, what are some of the things, like if someone never, ever heard of this, or maybe someone who have a surface knowledge of it, what are some of the things that they're going to learn or take away from this?
So the theme of the discussion is going to be appreciate what God and Christ has done for you. And just as you mentioned, people understand that Jesus died for our sins. They hear that on a regular basis. But here's an interesting question. Why? Why did the greatest man who ever lived, perfect in every way, that was having such a powerful impact on every person he came into contact with, why did he have to die just 3.5 years into his public ministry? And really, with that death, what did that open up for every human that would ever walk on the earth? How did that settle an issue that was not just here on the earth, but an issue that was also raised in heaven? When a person comes to this talk, which will last about an hour, that's how long the program lasts from beginning to end. We have a couple of songs, we have prayers that are there. They'll be able to have their appetite whetted by answering those simple questions of how we can show our appreciation for this, what it means for us, and how it, again, can improve our life. Because God wants us to have a happy life. He doesn't want us to be in misery. He doesn't want us to sorrow, and he doesn't want us to feel that way at all. He wants us to have a positive hope for the future. And it all starts with this sacrifice that his son made when he was here on the earth. So when ones come, they'll be able to learn those things.
Aaron, what was fascinating as well was during the pandemic. We know there's 8.6 million Jehovah's Witnesses globally, but it's over almost 20 million who attended the memorial during the pandemic time or something like that. And that always impresses me because the majority of the ones who attend are not Jehovah's Witnesses.
To your point, Paul, last year at the memorial, 1 in 142 people living in the United States was at the memorial with Jehovah's Witnesses.
Wow.
In the United States, we have 1.2 million Jehovah's Witnesses. Double that attended the memorial, 2.3, within 100,000. And so it is something for the public. And the reason why is because ones read their Bible. They know what it says in Luke chapter 22 and verse 19. They know how important this event is. And so they looked at Jehovah's Witnesses to come and observe that. And that's why we want to welcome as many as possible to be able to come and attend. And if a person can't attend in person, maybe they don't want to be around a crowd, maybe they don't have transportation, maybe they don't have health to be able to attend, there will also be a virtual element to that. They could just simply talk to any one of Jehovah's Witnesses that they may know. If they don't know someone, they can log on to jw.org, put in their information, or they could simply call the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses in their area. If no one answers the phone, leave a message. We'll call you back and give you information on how you can attend virtually. Just making sure no one misses out on this event.
It's the most important night in human history. We want to make sure that everyone knows about it. And Aaron, we kind of talked about how ones who are in attendance are not Jehovah's Witnesses. So are other religions invited to attend the memorial?
Any person can attend. That's what's interesting about Jehovah's Witnesses. Our meetings are for the public. We want individuals to come. Really, that's the example that Jesus set. He let all people come to him. He was able to talk with the Samaritan woman. And when he left the earthly scene, a person that reads the Bible may remember that Jesus told his disciples to go to all of the nations and to make this kingdom known to them. So in imitation of that, that's what we continue to do. We want every person to be able to come and attend. We think all people will benefit from it.
Thank you so much, Aaron. I really appreciate that. And you talked about if ones are not able to attend, they can watch it virtually. What if someone wants to attend in their area? How can they find out if one is in their city and they want to go in person?
Let me clarify that again, Paul. Thank you for asking. jw.org. When they log on to jw.org, they can click on the home page there with the memorial or special talk. The little blue button there, find a meeting place. It brings up a map. If they can put in their address, put in the particular language that they want to hear the program in, and it will show them on the map and give them the address and the time of that location. They don't have to print anything out. They won't need a ticket. They can just come. When they attend a memorial, you'll often see Jehovah's Witnesses dressed in their suits and their ties and their dresses, because for us it's a very important event, so we're going to dress as nice as we can dress. However, remember, half of the people that attended last year were not Jehovah's Witnesses, and so they just come dressed with whatever they have. You don't have to wear a tie. You don't have to wear a dress. You can wear what you feel comfortable in. It's modest. We would love to have you. Don't let clothing or anything else prevent you from listening to what Jesus said, this commandment to come and remember this most important event.
Aaron, on that note, we thank you so much for coming on and letting us know about the special campaign that is going on now, the special presentation for the public about the future, as well as the observance of Jesus' death. We thank you so much. And if one's, again, like to find out more about Jehovah's Witnesses and their beliefs and all the different resources that are out there that can help out families, single children with some really great Bible information, Give that website out again, please.
jw.org.
Awesome. So until next time, Aaron, stay well, and let me know if you're coming out to California. Maybe the weather will cooperate.
Thank you, Paul. Hope to do so soon.
Once again, really enjoyed my chat with Aaron Purvis, U.S. spokesperson with Jehovah's Witnesses. And I sincerely hope that you really enjoyed hearing about the global campaign that's really geared to help out ones in the community, as well as the most important day in human history. Well, thank you once again for tuning in and joining me. Until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and remember, I love you all to life.